I knew a man who loved a mascot. I always thought there was something a little creepy about the Panda Express mascot. For one thing, it was an actual panda with a demented grin and dead eyes. As much as I loved the orange chicken at PE, running into the mascot every now and then was almost enough to completely put me off the restaurant. But my kids loved the food even more than I did. They even liked that freaky panda thing, too. So my family found itself in Panda Express at least once a week. The restaurant was usually crowded but not too wild. We went often enough that our family had a favorite table right in the corner by the kitchen. That way, every time the door opened, we could smell all of the broccoli and beef and fried rice and everything else. It was me, my wife Jennifer, and the twins, Travis and Tyler. TNT we called them. Those two little psychos were my whole world, and nothing made them happier than when the panda was working at Panda Express. The panda would roam around the room waving at guests and giving hugs to kids, all while wearing a bright red shirt over the animal suit. The mascot bounced from table to table like a red, rubber ball, leaving laughing children and slightly unnerved parents in its wake. I swear, there was something about those giant, black eyes that creeped me the hell out. They were like abandoned wells full of shadows and danger. But hey, the kids loved that panda. There was one adult, though, that loved the panda more than any kid I ever saw. His name was Tony. Tony was obsessed with the Panda Express mascot. I knew the man's name was Tony because I overheard him reintroducing himself to the panda over and over and over. The man was a superfan. He always wore the same stained red t-shirt that the mascot did. Tony was at least 400 pounds and seemed to subsist on a diet of egg rolls and Coca-Cola exclusively. We saw him every time we visited Panda Express, so he was there at least once a week, but I had a hunch Tony visited the place every day. His table was always piled high with food. As soon as the mascot walked in from the kitchen, Tony would clap and pound that table so hard that dishes went flying. The big man always ate alone and he always invited the panda to join him. Each time, the mascot declined. Round and round they went, the panda and the superfan. Every week it got a little more extreme. Tony kept trying to touch the mascot or brought them gifts and tried to monopolize the employees' time. The fixation was unusual. At one point, I even noticed Tony brought in a trash bag full of bamboo as if the mascot was an actual panda. I thought it was harmless if weird, but that changed last week. Last week, Tony proposed to the Panda Express mascot. It was a surreal scene. My family was just sitting down to dinner when Tony walked in. He had stuffed himself into a tuxedo and held a bouquet of red roses in his hand. The panda was entertaining a large group in the middle of the room, lots of kids, lots of food. Tony came waltzing over, dropped to one knee, rattling all of the nearby tables, and held out the flowers. The panda looked perplexed. The big man waited, roses extended, for several seconds. When the mascot made no move, Tony plopped the flowers down on a table, reached into his jacket, and produced a diamond ring. The Panda Express was completely silent. Someone giggled then stopped suddenly. I think we were all holding our breath. Tony was clearly off his rocker. I knew some people grew attached to fictional characters, but it seemed like this guy was obsessed with the Panda Express panda. The mascot didn't react at first. Then he pulled off the costume's head to reveal a young dude. "Bro, what are you doing?" the mascot asked Tony. Tony didn't blink. "Please put the mask back on and accept my proposal. I love you. The real you. The panda you." The man in the panda suit opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again, and then just walked away. He disappeared into the kitchen. Tony stayed on one knee for a long time. Someone laughed. Then everyone was laughing. The entire Panda Express lost it. I saw Tony growing redder and redder until he was the same shade as the PE t-shirt. The big man fled, knocking over a table on his way. I figured that was the last time I would see Tony in that restaurant. I was wrong. We did a rare back-to-back Panda Express family trip. Travis and Tyler were so freaked out by the incident that we left early before we could eat. I didn't want to return so soon, but Jennifer convinced me that things would actually be better. The fever dream pantomime between Tony and the mascot was over, and the superfan was unlikely to show his face in any Chinese restaurant for the rest of his life. So we were there the night things went to hell. It started normal enough with the panda going from table to table. I wasn't sure if it was the same person in the costume as the night before, but whoever was in there, they were high energy. Then Tony walked in again. This time, he was back in his usual outfit of jeans and a red PE t-shirt. He also had a baseball bat. The mascot had their back to the door and never saw it coming. Tony moved quickly for such a large fellow. He was across the restaurant in a few steps, swinging as he got close to the panda. The bat connected with the mascot's head with a sound like an egg thrown against a brick wall. Jennifer screamed when the panda collapsed. Tony didn't stop after the first swing. The superfan brought the club down a dozen times or more. He was screaming or crying or giggling. It was hard to tell. Nobody moved until Tony was done. It felt like hours, but it was, at most, 30 seconds. Tony dropped the bat and sat on the floor next to what was left of the battered mascot. The panda's suit was crumpled, limbs jutting out at wild angles. I could barely imagine how the corpse inside of the costume must look. Blood was everywhere. Tony began to laugh. It started as a quiet sound but grew louder and louder. The man ran out of breath and took a deep lungful of air. "I have a joke for you all," Tony barked. The entire restaurant was frozen, hanging on the crazy man's every word. "What's black, white, and red all over?" Tony stood up and grabbed the bat again. He started swinging it down at the ruins of the mascot. We ran just like everyone else in the Panda Express. We were pulling out of the parking lot just as the police were pulling in. I can still hear Tony's laughter and heavy breathing and the thunk of the baseball bat. Really took a turn a bit in. I thought the panda was gonna be the issue, but nope. WTH? I would have worried about Tony a long time before the proposal, if I had been management. If not the panda from proposal, some poor person might not have had a clue what was going on. I love Panda S immensely. But not in a Tony kind of way. Why did nobody stop him? After the first swing of the bat, at least 3 people should have jumped on Tony. Jesus Christ, that's fucking scary.